Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. It is 8 a.m. on the dot, Monday morning. Here's a pecan for Rhett. There you go, babe. Enjoy. And it is, like I said, it's 8 a.m., 77 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe I don't have to really say Fahrenheit because I think 77 degrees Celsius would be really, really hot. Celsius, yeah, not I always get like, because, for me, Kelvin and Celsius are the same. They're both things that I sort of used to do in engineering school um, back in the 1990s. Here we go. Is Monday morning. We are just deep in the depths of unit testing. Basically, I added a new feature to my project, and that's the ability to delete. I'm working on the CRUD, so I have create. It just creates a let's go over here and just show you. Just creates a visualization. So I have create, and I don't have update, and I have read, right? Because we can read it, and I just implemented delete. So, and you have to go to like a different view to be able to delete, but you can delete and then come back. And then that one's to the right because they keep, once they've gotten a location assigned, they keep their location. So like when an update exists, then the user will be able to just update like the size and position, and hopefully we can add new different mesh types and all that. But one of the things I wanted to experiment with was um, unit tests, and I've always like every project I've ever worked on where we had unit tests, basically died, like failed. Like if there's one thing that every project that I've ever been on that's been a failure, it had unit tests, and every time I've ever been on a project that was a success, it didn't have unit tests. Is it the fault of the unit tests? I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not sure. So I wanted to do unit tests and see if I could sort of decode or you know understand like, okay, what is it about unit tests? Because for me, unit tests were always about like just getting to whatever the customers the management's demand was. Like, oh, we want 80% coverage. All I cared about was getting coverage. I didn't actually care about unit testing because I found that it just was such a huge distraction. So this actual project, I have a couple projects going right now that I do on YouTube, and this one is called, I call it Space and Time, and it is 196 videos in, and we've hardly accomplished anything. My other one is called a web analyzer that I only work on the weekends. It's 117 videos in, and it's almost done. It's probably within 3 or 4 videos, maybe maximum 8 videos are being done. So worst case scenario, I think it'll be done at 125 videos. We're barely getting started in space and time. Not only that, but I did sort of a ThreeJS space and time one last year, and by this time last year, I could put like words, I could put lights, I could do so much more. So that is sort of the negative side of unit tests from my perspective, my thoughts on it. Positive side of the unit tests, I am so much better of a developer now. I feel so much more comfortable developing. All my other projects are going faster. I've definitely like been able to unwind some bad habits that I sort of picked up over the decades and decades that I've been almost half century that I've been coding, um, and so yeah, I think I'm 3 years shy of coding for 50 years. So yeah, I picked up some bad habits along the way, and unit tests really found those for me and all that. But that was very time consuming, and the project's velocity, the speed at which I'm completing the project, has suffered greatly in order to make me a better developer. I mean, it's good. I'm glad I did it. I do not, I have no regrets about doing it. But on the other hand, um, it's like, should a company really be paying for the old timer developer to get better at coding? Should they be paying so that the young buck can get more experience? Like Probably not. Probably the company should be highly focused on actually finishing the project and not on um, just becoming better at development. So, anyways, I'm getting pretty close though to 100%, and basically, um, this pro this little thing I've gone through has sort of caused a lot of very, very atomic, very low level um, um, refactoring. And I think where my big weak spot is in the array, and using the array methods so that the code can be a little bit more sort of narrative like and a little bit less sort of side effect like. So like this code right here is I'm looping over every visualization, and then as a side effect, when I find the one I want, I set st visualizations to visualization. That's fine, like that, and I think that things like this used to be like this is sort of the way things evolved initially, because you used to have to loop over all the memory, and used to, like everything was all about looping over memory and looping over different things. And now, and then like doing things when you found whatever you were looking for. So you're going over everything. And that's sort of how the architecture of JavaScript and almost everything works. But it is very non narrative like. Um, you can kind of make a narrative, but the thing is these things tend to sort of tend to keep adding things on. But really, what we're trying to do, and what would be an easier thing to understand, is saying, hey, declare an st visualization, find the visualization you're looking for, uh, the matching visualization, and return it. Like I think that reads a little bit better than loop over all the visualizations. Whenever this matches this, then do this. And then what that would do for us is then we can sort of break out this code into its own function, so that we instead of sort of two things, this is sort of a compound sentence. This is like loop over every visualization, and look for this comparison. And it'd be nice to not have the and. Like when we're over here, we're going like, oh, go find the visualization. Okay, this other one. Um, Whenever this matches that, then you found it. I think that reads a little is easier to understand, easier to come back and maintain. And the one thing I do know is that this whole section about um, this entire visualization service is very, very likely, not 100%, but is extremely likely to get much more complicated, because like right now when I add a new visualization, oh, because I had this reflow. um, so I have it reflowed and redoing, so this is actually a new one. But if I go and I turn visualization reflow off, right, so boom, and then add, add, and then delete, and then back to here, and then add visualization, it puts it here. But it would be kind of nice if it knew how to put it here instead, um, to calculate that this was in it. And that's especially like, um, even if reflow is on and I add, oops, and then I come over here and I delete the very first one, and then I come back over here and then I add a new one. Oh, I guess because it's the reflow is on. But so like, let's say this is twice the height and there's empty spots. Like figuring out where to put things is probably going to get a lot more complicated with time. So anyways, so that's that. So I think what I need to do, first thing I need to do is this function here. And I didn't really used to care about this, but I kind of cared about it, but I didn't care about it that much, but I care about it a lot now. Is being a pure function, and a pure function means that it has everything it needs passed in. It doesn't ever have to interact with the state of whatever you're using. So in this case, it's a service. It doesn't have to interact with the service attributes. That's one part of it, and the second part is if you give it the same input, it always returns the same outputs. Um, just and it's just so much easier to maintain and understand when you do it that way. So I believe, I'm not 100% on that, but I believe that that is the case. So that's the viz component. We do not want the viz component. We want the viz service. I'm going to close that. A bit of a distraction. Let's go ahead and close that one. So we only have two files open. We have so basically what happens right now is it actually goes over this visualizations. I would rather it get the visualizations passed in. And the nice thing about this used to be, what I'm doing right now used to be extremely difficult, but with the modern IDEs and the modern transpiling, it actually finds the issues very, very quickly. So then it's easy to fix. Um, so, um, so basically, I'm calling them visualizations, so I'm just going to call that visual. And this is an array of ST visualizations, I believe. Let's go ahead and look at the where this was defined. Yes, it's an array of ST visualizations. So we're going to get this little back button up here, and we have our visualizations. We probably should call them ST visualizations, so it's a little easier to make sense about. And then this, instead of looping over the visualizations that we have. Oh, and just I probably won't make a video tomorrow or on for Thursday because I'm going into the office. So we go into the office a couple times a year, and you know it's very good and all that. And yeah, and we have things that we got to take care of, and so this is weird. ST visualizations for each. I guess it's because oh, I didn't declare that properly. All right, so um, so now this is an array of visualizations, and it gets passed in. Now, if I hit save, and I come over here, it should break, and then we can just let this thing figure out where our breakage is. I don't really think there's a whole lot of value in. So I'm holding the control button down. And I'm clicking on this. Whole lot of value in like being able to control find what you're looking for. So you know, like sometimes you're trying to this dot get. I think it's visualizations, right? Get visualizations of function, and there's no G in this. And I think that that will solve the issue. Like when you're working with ChatGPT or all that, and it just gives you an answer, that's probably not healthy for your mind. It may be, I don't know. Like, and maybe younger people, their minds will evolve differently. But for the way the way my brain is configured, it leaves me in a very, like if all I do is copy and paste the ChatGPT stuff and I don't understand it, it leaves me in a feeling very vulnerable. And it leaves me in a very easily grumpy state. So anyways, we want to make sure that that didn't break anything. I can't imagine how it would have broken anything, but if it did break something, I would rather it be now. I would rather see it now because it's going to be a little easier to fix. All right, so that's good. So now our visualizations are, it's going to be a little easier to unit test this because, okay, so that's the old one because, did we have a unit test fail? Oh, we did. Yeah, and that makes sense. I guess we call it here. So I'm going to hold the control button down and click this button, and it's upset that this did not get any visualizations passed in. And that might end up resulting in this getting better coverage. So there is definitely a see visualizations. So I'm just going to copy that. sort of expand on this and pass in the visualizations. Now, yesterday, if I remember correctly, yeah, I did that one. Oh wait, get visualizations for component. That is, oh yeah, that is the one we're messing with. All right, so we hit Control V there, and then I'm just going to call this viz list instead of original viz list, since we're not really doing anything with that. And now that I think about it, this might have gone a lot faster had I started from the top and worked my way down. This doesn't have any, I don't understand why, this doesn't have any expectations. I don't know why we weren't getting a, oh, I guess yesterday I must have, gets a visual, yeah. Yesterday I must have written that test to try to get coverage. I was trying to, oh, that's right, because trying to understand why I wasn't getting this here. So this worked, it looks like, but we do have a it kind of feels like it didn't work. Something's off about this. Let me kill that and start it again. So I would love to break this into its own function. And it doesn't, and that should be super easy because it doesn't need, I guess it does need the viz component. It needs this one, so I guess it does. Oh, it didn't actually update this coverage because that is not the we added a new argument there. So this is not even showing anything. But yeah, I think it needs that. Does it need viz component? What does it even use viz component for? Oh yeah, so it needs a reference to this. So we will actually need to do our own, create the context with the bind function, and then you create a factory, a JavaScript predicate factory, I believe are the words that we learned last week, to generate a function, a higher order function that will be able to do this stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that, like, I think before I started this unit test thing, like, I knew how to do it, but I didn't quite know how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I knew how to do it, I could get it done, but I didn't feel comfortable or anything. Okay, so yeah, that did change a bunch of stuff, and I think it got us to 0. Yeah, so we have 100, all of our functions are now called. So we had one anonymous function, this thing right here, that wasn't being called at all, but now it's not really being tested, and that's because I don't even think any of them have this render input ID function, so it's kind of wild that it doesn't break when it's trying to run that. But I would like to break this out because it's been good practice. So here we go. I'm gonna end up spending like at least 1, maybe 2 sessions doing nothing but breaking this into its own little function, and mostly so that when I need to do this at work or in other projects, it'll be easier to do. Not because it helps this project at all. So it's very, very distracting, like the way things work. I mean, the unit tests really, really distract you from actually caring. Like, I just don't even care that I'm not learning any ThreeJS and stuff right now. I'm more like fascinated by becoming better at like higher order functions and array using array methods comfortably and stuff like that. And I would even rather this be a find instead of looping over for each of them. So like I kind of would rather, I guess, create a function called like find visualization for renderer ID, or find visualization. I'm just going to name it that. And basically this thing is going to accept the same thing. So first I'm literally just going to copy it over. So we'll break it down, and then hopefully then use a better array function. And so this is going to return an st visualization or undefined. Like if it doesn't find it, and then basically is that right? Get visualization for component. Because it's like I'm literally going to copy and paste this entire function down. Yeah, that's silly. Okay, so let's not do that. Let's do this. I'm going to say st visualization equals st visualizations dot find, and then it's going to have an array that has, it's going to give you a viz. I'm going to just call it a viz, an st viz, which is of type st visualization. Oh, I'm talking all quiet again, sorry. And then we are going to compare this st viz, and we're going to give it dot st. Basically this. Let's just copy this. We're just copying. And I guess we don't need that. So basically it's going to return a true or false based on whether it matches the renderer ID. And then just make sure nothing breaks. That's all I want to make sure, is I didn't make some kind of weird bug there. Now we'll reload. Just make sure we're good. Just want to make sure that, yeah, everything still seems to work. Now let's comment this out. And I'm really starting to wonder, like, do I even need to break I guess I kind of want to break that into its own function, and only because it'll be easier to unit test. But will it really? Maybe not. Yeah, now that I think about it, it probably won't actually be easier. Now, actually, I guess in order to test this, we need to delete something. So it looks like it deleted. Yep, and then that worked. So reflow only works when it's creating something. Reflow has nothing to do with deleting. So And then my understanding is if I turn off reflow right now and I add a new one, yep, it gets added there. But if I add reflow turned on and I add a new one, yeah, it goes in up there, which I think makes it actually reflows everything, which is not obvious because they're all cubes. But when they aren't all cubes, it'll be very easy to test that visually. All right, so this is all working. I think that is a little bit more useful. We still have this branch not being tested, so we want to test this branch, and I think the easiest way will be in our viz component that we pass in to give it a function called strRenderInputID that returns the same ID as something in the list, which is probably going to be fine. So this is our st visualization, our mock viz. And see right now it has an st less and st top. It has a component, but it doesn't have an a function, which is a signal in the actual application. Oh, and that is not of the viz, is it? Oh, it is the viz component. So we pass this in, we pass in this viz component. All right, so let's try this. I think this will work. Create a function called st render input. Oh, I don't want a period. What I want is a comma. St render input ID is equal to a function that returns, oh, none of these even have render IDs, 1. And we don't want equals, we want colon. So basically it's just a function that returns 1. No matter what you call, it's going to return 1. And then I guess we want to, maybe we want to return renderer ID. So the renderer ID gets calculated up here. And then mock, who gets this mock viz? Mock viz is what we pass in. It's a viz component. Oh, okay, so this guy is going to be like, it'll be interesting to see if this breaks anything. St renderer ID colon and it is renderer ID. And I don't even know if this layer of abstraction, like trying to, like having to think, okay, this ties to this, which then ties to this, is useful. But basically this mock viz one is the one that should match. And we'll see what happens here. See what's going on with our tests, make sure nothing breaks. I think the test happened. Changes detected, rebuilding. No, that did not run. Just felt like nothing happened there. I'm just going to give this a renderer ID of 100. The second one is 100 and 200. seems like it's not actually running the tests. It's just like rebuilding. I'm gonna restart it again. See if we have any luck. It's 8:30, so I still have time. But as you can see, we are not. We are moving forward or getting. I feel like I'm definitely getting better as a developer. I'm sort of getting more practice in with all these little ideas and these abstractions and these concepts, but the project is not moving forward at all. It is like really, it is so hard when you work at a place to sort of, um, okay, so yeah, now we have 100% because we passed in the right stuff. Um, it's so hard when you work at a place to explain, like they want to know why these ideas that people have don't seem to work. Um, and it is so hard to explain why. Even at this point, I still don't think I could explain. Like if someone's like, "Hey, I want to add our team on our team. I want to have, um, I want to add these new things. I want to add these new unit tests," and I would have such a hard time explaining why it's such a bad idea. Um, I'm trying to get to where I can because I do think like I feel like as a developer, if especially as a senior developer, and someone comes up with an idea and they want to do something, and you and that idea is literally going to kill the project, and you can't figure out a good way to express why it's going to kill the project. It's like you're not really doing your job as a senior developer. And I still don't know how I would explain this away because unit testing and all the side effects of unit testing are so good except for the project. It's like I don't know, there was a movie called Moneyball where they were like trying to recruit players based on like how beautiful it was, the way they hit the ball, how they stood, what their demeanor was, all this stuff, and they were like, I just want to win. I don't care about any of that other stuff. Um, and that was like a thing, So, this is weird. Why is it not rebuilding? Like I'm hitting Control S, and I think this is also one of the most difficult things to explain anymore because, like, until about 3 or 4 years ago, if we did the exact same thing on when you were programming computers today as you did yesterday, you would get the exact same result. But yesterday I was making changes and it was redrawing stuff, and now I'm making changes and it's not retesting. Um, so something is different, and that's a very almost impossible thing to explain to anybody who hasn't really been coding in the last 5 or 6 years. Um, so and that would describe almost all development managers right now. Okay, so now we got it clear. Yeah, yesterday it was not working. I started actually recording a lot of things that I do just for this reason because it was like, no, yesterday we used to be able to click this and do that, and it worked. This now today it doesn't. And what's really bizarre is once you actually have a recording and you show the two things, then they come up with a reason so fast, and then they're like, oh yeah, no, that's just how it is. But if you can't come up with a recording, then life is just hard. All right. So now we have this. Now, do I want to pull this in? The problem, okay. So the problem I'm having is that this, the code that would use this function, if I passed it in this function, would need access to this viz component. So it would literally almost be a direct copy. No, I guess it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Okay. Okay, so let's do that. Um, what did I call like the other one? I called it like Finder or filter factory function. Okay. Availability factory function. Okay, I'm gonna hit Control Z to get back where we were. Let's see. Find component factory function. I don't know if that's the best way to do this, but that's how I'm doing it at the moment. And this is going to return a true or false. And the thing is, and it's going to accept a viz component. And when I first started doing this stuff, I had decided that I am going to write unit tests, and I'm only going for 100%, and I don't even care about anything else. I absolutely refuse to think about anything else. It's like now I'm like, literally, this doesn't even help with unit testing or anything. I'm just doing it for the experience at this point. Okay, so what am I doing wrong here? Oh, no, I return a function. That's right. And then this returns a Boolean. Oof, I can't even remember how to do this. See, I thought I had this down pat, and then, but I clearly don't. So I only have the word factory twice. This has room. So this returns no. Oof, I do not remember how to do this. Okay, so I'm trying to return another function that. Okay, so this returns a that's what this is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Okay, and then in my return, is it Boolean like this? No. Return true. Okay, so now it's happy. Now that we know how to make it factory, we know that it is going to take an stviz visualization. And it's going to okay, and then I have to fix this up here. Okay, it returns a function that accepts an st visualization and returns a true or a false. And then basically like that. It's going to return the result of that comparison. And it knows it because it got, when it got created, it got that. So now what we want to do is we want to create a factory. We want to mint one of those functions. So I'm going to call this my find function. I don't know if that's a good way to do it, but equals this dot find function viz component, and then so let's just make sure this all compiles and stuff. So it didn't, it's like you didn't do anything, but it is compiled. Like if there was something wrong with it, it would break, I'm assuming. Kind of have to double check that because it's not acting as I would expect. Okay, now I want to give it this, and I want to call it a find function. And what this is used for is in delete. So if when I want to test this, and what's bizarre again is that this is not actually running, it's not actually rerunning the test for some reason, even though I changed the way the code works. And it's supposed to be rerunning the test, but it's not. And I want to test that this stuff still works. And basically the easiest way to test it will be to delete something, because if it can't find it, it can't delete it. I hope that's correct. Yeah, okay, so that is working, and now we're rerunning the tests. And basically the only reason I did this was so that I could practice this whole concept of building out another function and creating a predicate factory function, so that word kind of rolls right off my tongue now. And then honestly, like if we want to be clever, we can just do this. Move this up to here. We don't need this middle ground thing. So I feel like it definitely reads a lot easier. And we can even, like, it's easy to write comments for it. Now, like a lot of times you don't want to have like comments that sort of are obvious, but create a find. Now it's kind of wild. That is, I think it's really obvious. It's just kind of not quite in my mindset right now, but like it's weird that I don't have to bind it. But I guess I don't have to bind it because when I create it, I give it all it needs. I don't have to do a bind this because this doesn't need anything from it. So again, that's like a level up. Find a finder function. Let's just type in predicate factory function. And I actually want to ask ChatGPT if that comment makes sense, because I am really trying to understand that better. So in this, does a comment in this code make sense? Could be more clear for readers who may not be breakdown. So it's saying that it makes sense. So predicate factory function doesn't generate a predicate function for finding the matching component. I don't think that's any better. Factory function that creates a predicate for dot find. Okay, so I'm happy with this. And then find the visualization. Then return it. Return the visualization. Would I actually do this in like in a production environment? Would I add these comments? No, absolutely not. I'm literally only doing this for my own, just to try to kind of cement these words into my brain a little bit better. Um, but we are down to, I think, one. No, we have zero function. We have one branch, I think, that's untested. We have two statements, two lines, and one branch that's untested. So now we just got to figure out how to test this uh, branch for upsert viz component. And I don't really know exactly how to do that at this point. The problem is everything that we do at this point, I guess we don't. Whenever we run this, we don't get a viz component for the existing visualization. So it would be nice if it did return one, um, which I think the work we just did literally takes care of this. Um, so I guess, and all this, well, okay, so I guess right now this thing is very pure function except for this get visualization. So it would be kind of nice if we pass that. So, and I guess it's this guy right here. And just want to see. So it's only called in one place. And we actually bind this. So I think it might be kind of hard to, because what I would like to do is pass in this dot visualization, but it doesn't look like that is a realistic. That doesn't seem like that's realistic, because the way it gets called here. So that's an interesting issue, and maybe maybe it makes sense to do it here and then. So we did not make a predicate factory function here. What we did was we made a function. That is interesting. So we made a function and we called it directly and we bound this to it, which is pretty good. That was definitely a step forward. But I think that an even better step forward is something like this, where you create the factory function, and then the factory function um, when you create it, it gets access to this component. I mean, it gets access to this, but you've passed it in. But really, what we're trying to get is basically existing visualization to have something in it, and it can't have anything in it unless we tweak the services visualization list, which would be nice to not do that. So it looks like we kind of, that was cool the way I did this. And I was wondering, in this actual video, I was wondering, like, why don't I have to do the bind? And why did I have to do the bind before? And now we're kind of seeing why. And that's because when we call this, we had to bind it so that it could get access to this guy right here. Is that right? Don't know. But basically, we really would like to get a visualization. So wherever I call the upsert, if I can, what I could do is set the services attribute, visualizations attribute, and then let it go there. I'm not sure what to do on this one. We're very, very close to being done. I'm pretty sure, like literally wherever I'm calling that, I could just set the this dot visualizations. I could just set the services visualizations. We'd be done. I'd just move on. But instead, I'm probably going to spend a session or two sharpening my skills, basically. And that's a good thing, but it's not good for the project. Good for me though. Um, Anyways, happy coding, everybody. It is 8:51. I got to start working 9 minutes. No show tomorrow. No show on Thursday. I will have a show on Wednesday. Um, so happy coding. Bye.